Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. You know who it is and what to hit and why. So let me get straight to it. This probably is going to be a rant. At the end of the day, and actually at the beginning, George Floyd was killed because he was black, and somebody called the cops on him. And when people call the cops on black folks, they know what they're doing. Especially when white folks do it. They know exactly what they're doing. So, turns out George Floyd had a white fiance. And turns out that she tried that white supremacist BS. And look, I'm not going to front. I know it's there. It's always there. I recorded something last night on another social media platform to the Arabs I knew in the town I used to live in. But any of my contacts on that platform could have heard it, and one of them answered me back, and I heard his message less than an hour ago talking about, no, the Muslims don't hate black people, and Bilal was black, and he was the most beloved of the Prophet, peace be to him. And I had to tell him, bruh, I already heard that before. I've heard it 1,000 times since I landed in this country. I know all these hadiths. The problem is that the Muslims are not following it. I had to let him know. And when I say the Muslims, I'm talking about the ones that ain't black. It's a problem. It's not a problem in the religion. It's not anything that the Prophet, peace be to him, did wrong, or any other prophet before him. The problem is their culture. And I understand some of us have Blackanoia. We think that as soon as people lose some melanin and get a little lighter, they just naturally become racist against or colorist. Take your pick. I don't buy that it's an instinct that comes with a mere reduction in melanocyte activity. But what I do think happens, though, is that people get brainwashed. So I'm going to say it like this. I've heard some sisters, of course, the bald eagle being one of them, and those who come on and support her, talking about we don't need to be marching for George Floyd because they ain't marched for Breonna Taylor. They were more concerned about the man that got arrested. No. We were actually preoccupied with Ahmaud Arbery during that time because his case got more coverage. Neither Breonna Taylor nor her boyfriend, whose name I've forgotten, something Walker, neither of them had the same level of coverage that Ahmaud Arbery got. We are influenced by what we know, and the coverage influences what we know. So we're influenced by what gets more coverage. So we got these sapphires and boom shikas and bonquishas with the feminism going on these sites saying the black men don't care nothing about us. Here they go with that again. Now, even though I do not advocate us being with white folk, for reasons you all know, same reason I say that we should not be marrying Arabs, Indians, Pakistanis, Afghans, or Persians for that matter. It's their attitude, and they're not fixing their mental problems. It's the same reason I tell you that we should leave them white folk alone when it comes to marriage. They ain't fixing what's in their minds that dehumanizes us. If we can't mess with the Arabs and the Persians and the Afghans, and we can't be with them romantically and start families with them, and they don't hate us, which is true, or some of them do, but it's not the same, then how is it that we can sit up here and be with the white folk? I got it. However, George Floyd was not killed because of his white fiance. He was killed because he was a big black man with a check that they thought was forged. That's why. He was killed because they called the cops. He was actually not, he wasn't killed because his girlfriend was white. He was killed because Derek Chauvin is white. Do you understand? So if we're going to march about this, sisters, if you're going to march, you have to ask yourself, are you marching for your right to deny him the vagina, or are you marching for his right to live equally to any other individual of any other race? If you're going to do the right thing, you got to do it for the right reason. And that's exactly what I tell these Arabs where I'm living now. You want to talk against racism, you want to talk about how Bilal was beloved by the Prophet like he was the only black person that was a companion in that time, when in fact there's a hadith that describes Ali, his own nephew, as being black with a capital B and 4 A's in the middle. I have to say to them at times, see, you're saying that you're giving true information, but you're giving it for the wrong reason. You don't want to actually confront your white supremacist ideas. You just don't want me to talk about your white supremacist assumptions. I got to get on them. Well, the same thing applies to us. If we're going to do the right thing, we got to do it for the right reason. The issue is not for Breonna Taylor, for Ahmaud Arbery, and for George Floyd. The issue here is that they were not treated with an equal right to live. And that's why people are upset. And some of y'all are sitting up saying, well, them Becky's ain't out there marching on behalf of George Floyd. No, actually they are. His Becky's not, but the other ones are. I saw the looting, not just marching, but looting, rioting and stealing stuff. I saw everyone. I saw the videos. Everybody was in on it. Everyone was represented. White folk, black folk, Bantu black folks, and the Hamitic black folks of Eastern Africa. All of them were represented in that. Ain't nobody clean when it comes to that looting. And I'm not going to sit here and condemn it because, again, I don't condone looting, but I'm not going to condemn it because morally I have an issue with it because it's looting. But I'm not going to sit up and say it just to try to make white folks happy, because that's not the right reason to do it, is it? So no, I'm not going to waste my time condemning it at this point. It's just understood a Muslim is not for looting and stealing. So that goes without saying. The issue here is that George Floyd was killed for the same reason Breonna Taylor was killed, for the same reason Ahmaud Arbery was killed. Because they're black. It's not because of any theft, any trespassing, any crimes committed. We know it's not because a white dude who was mentally ill and killed some folks with a, or they say he's mentally ill, but was never violent before, who hacked some people to death with a machete, was arrested alive and without incident. You're going to say, well, he walked up and turned himself in. George Floyd didn't have a chance to turn himself in. They called the cops on him and he didn't arrest and he was still choked to death. Ahmaud Arbery didn't have a chance to turn himself in. He looked in the house that was still under construction, walked out, got followed, then was videotaped when he was jogging or running because he had already been blocked off at one point and ran around them and was killed. What he did was self-defense. What the white guys did was murder. That's all there is to it. White folks, even though cops do kill white folks at times, and sometimes it gets caught on camera, they don't kill them in the same percentage or the same proportion. Being black, especially being a black male, makes you 6 times more likely than a white male to be shot while unarmed by a police officer. End of story. And I've seen videos of white guys pulling guns and weapons on cops, walking up to them, and the cops will not blow their damn brains out like what they've been asking for. I saw a video back in 2015 where a white guy was walking up to a cop and telling him, kill me. And the cop said, I'm not going to kill you. You're just under arrest. A black man can't do that. A black man can walk up with a knife and they will gladly shoot him to death. Black woman too. The issue here, for some of you that want to sit up and say that, they want to talk all this divisive stuff unnecessarily, talk about you feminists, is really that George Floyd did not rely on you for sexual access. And that's a very shallow reason to say, I ain't gonna march. Now, if you just ain't gonna march anyway, you ain't gonna do it. But you're not gonna march because he was a black man with a white woman. What were you gonna do? I mean, were you checking for him before that point? And you didn't have to be. It was up to you. So look, other thing too is this. Yeah, I'm ADOS, got it. American descendant of slaves. I'm an African too. And as much as I will go in on Africans when we do things that are wrong, it's not okay to go in on anybody when they didn't do something wrong. And a lot of us love to talk all this, you ain't ADOS, you stay over there. It's one thing when you say, okay, America owes us reparations, England owes you reparations for the sake of being organized. If that's what you're talking about, that's fine. But we got to realize that this time, as much as we blame Somalis for crapping on us when a lot of them didn't, and as much as we crapped on them, this time they are the ones out there even more than we are. They're the ones out there marching because they've had people that got shot by the police without doing anything. And not only that, even though it's rare for that to happen to them, they still understand how wrong this is. They're not sitting up and saying, wait a minute, they're not saying, oh, well, he had a white girlfriend, so she's in a dunker, so let that killing go. That's not what they said, because they know murder. Some of them have lost people who were murdered because of the tribe they were from. So they get it. And they out there right along with us, even in larger numbers than we are in the Twin Cities, tearing stuff the F up. And it was an African American that just made a speech and even said, we got to give respect to the Somalian community because they're out here large enough. They're supporting us after we done crapped on them. So if you want to sit up and be organized in your explanation of Black history and account for our diversity, you have my full support. We're not all the same in terms of language and DNA and all that. I got it. But if you're going to sit up here and just try to be divisive, well, you stay over there and hold your own nuts and you ain't us and we ain't you and F you. No, you can miss me with that. As an authentic, old school pro-Black, you treat everybody equally and fairly, especially when they're Black. You do not go blaming Black folks for things they didn't do, and you don't go looking for reasons to be divisive when it comes to our own people. Fair is fair. If you're going to be unfair to somebody, be unfair with Europeans, because it's kind of hard to be unfair to them. But also, if you're going to be unnecessarily divisive, why don't you go and try to divide Europeans from each other? I mean, go to, the Swedish American and tell him, man, them Germans don't like you. We're all Americans. Yeah, I know, but see, when you're not around, that's when they tell you. What do they say in front of you? Come up with something, make something up. If you want to be unnecessarily divisive, do it to them, not us. And I'm not saying this because my girlfriend is from East Africa. I'm kidding, my wife. She's right next to me. I thought she was going to hit me, so I was trying to rile her up. But I'm not saying this because she's from East Africa. Truth be told, I'm saying it because it's true. I'm saying it because she does not have Blackanoia when she thinks that not only does every other race hate us, but that every other Black people hates her people. She doesn't have that. That's something that we have. We were trained, we were sort of shown by every other race of people that because of our nose and our lips and our head texture and our high melanocyte activity and melanin production, that everybody else hates us. And that's almost true, not completely, but almost. And it's not everybody else. But by the same token, most of them, I wouldn't even say they hate us, but most of them do look down on us. Most of them do view white as normal and some sort of standard, and we're just less normal even if they don't hate. That part is true. But what's happened is that we have developed a Blackanoia, that Black paranoia, when everybody, Yahamakala and Yahamakala in advance for the third one. I know what's coming. We have developed a Blackanoia in which we look at everybody else in the world, period, and we think, okay, that's an enemy right off the bat. The average Hawaiian is not born with an instinct to hate Black folks. Now, if they do, I don't know. I've never been to Hawaii. But the point is, this is not some default. It is definitely not in their DNA. And there was a time they did not, because my parents did go to Hawaii. And when they spoke, as pale as my parents are, when they spoke, the Hawaiian lady that was taking them to the hotel said, oh, okay, I got it. You're not the white Americans. I'm safe with you. This was understood. This was before I was born. So this was over 4 decades ago because I'm an old man now. But you get the idea. There was a time when it wasn't the case that everybody, or even halfway everybody, was our enemy. And so we have to understand what our relationships are with people. But let's be honest. A lot of you make this assumption, non-ADOS, non-Bantu, they hate us. That's not always true. Take time to get to know folks and ask them. Honestly, when you know them well enough, what are your people's attitude towards us? And you'll see the patterns develop. Most of the time, it's not hatred. You'll know who's who, and you know who to treat. You know how to treat exactly who. That's how I know. When I meet someone from Pakistan, take them as an individual. But let them talk, and you'll see what their attitude is towards Black folks. And you'll see a lot of people that don't hate you still have a pro-white attitude. Like I had with a Pakistani a British Pakistani or Pakistani Britisher. He went with me on my first time going to the real Africa, because I don't count the North anymore. And he was trying to tell me, oh no, this isn't really Africa because it's developed. And you're not really African. You've been away for how long? And he tried to tell me how when he went back to Pakistan, they didn't view him as really being Pakistani because he was born in the UK and grew up there. And I straight told him, you don't understand. Your parents chose to leave Pakistan and go to the UK. My parents did not choose to leave Africa and go to America. That's where the difference lies. So when we come here, even though we're in South Africa, and this is not where my ancestors came from, they know we are Africans. We're also Bantu. They know we're related because they descend from the West African Bantu. And the Central Africans are the intermediate type between us. They know this, I know it, and they understand The problem with the South Africans, Mr. Pakistani Britisher, is not the way that they view me. The problem is the way that they view other Africans. But you didn't say anything about that because you're comfortable with us being divided. But we're not. So your problem with your people is your problem. It's not mine. Thank you for coming on this trip with me. And it's true, he was a good traveling companion. But what I mean is that a lot of us are dumb and illiterate and don't read nothing, don't learn nothing, don't venture out. We just hear rhetoric and we buy it. And then next thing you know, we're out here assuming that people who are not our enemies are our enemies, so we unnecessarily make new enemies. That's not what you do when you have one major enemy at war with you. Now, it's okay you draw a line in the sand and you say, you on this mucker side or you on my side, because y'all know he's wrong. It's okay to do that. Then they can make an enemy out of you if they want to, or not. But you don't walk up to people when you're being pummeled by an enemy and then tell everybody else, you don't have a choice, you're also my enemy. It's not the way that works. So, if you want to know the diversity of black people, fine. You just want to be unnecessarily divisive, nigga, get out my face. Because even with what I'm on, even with the platforms I'm on, like I said, I'm an old school, authentic pro-black. We don't do unnecessary division just for the fun of it. Not at all. All right. Y'all take this message and y'all share it. Because it's more important than the messenger. Black instead of black, sign of black out. Assalamu alaikum.